Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuto a episodio 9. Buongiorno Marco.
Buongiorno Martin e buongiorno a tutti. Come stai Martin oggi?
Sì, bene, grazie, bene.
Molto
E tu?
bene. E anche io bene, oggi meno stanco. Today I'm less sleepy, I'm less tired.
Meno sonno?
Meno sonno, bene, sì.
Il tempo? Tempo fa oggi?
Sì, che tempo fa oggi? Oggi c'è il sole e fa caldo. And that's because I live in what we call the coast of la Costa del Sole, I guess translates as the sunny coast or something. So we have
Yeah,
like
yeah.
340 days a year of sun. So that's usually an
Wow,
easier answer, you know.
molto geloso.
Molto geloso, sì. Com'è il tempo nello Yorkshire?
Come sempre.
Come sempre.
Ehm,
Bene.
sì, Ehm, abbastanza freddo.
Mhm, mhm.
No, non piove, ma fuori è grigio. Could I say that?
Perfetto. Fuori è grigio, sì, you could say
Yeah.
that. Outside
Outside
it's
it's a bit
great.
grey.
Very good.
Yeah.
Or you could say something we do say a lot, although it's not perfect Italian, ha voglia di piovere. It really wants to rain.
Ah, ha voglia, of course, ha
Mhm,
voglia,
mhm.
voglio, yeah, yeah, ha voglia. Ha voglia di piovere.
Molto bene.
Okay.
We saw piove last week, as to say it rains, and we have no idea what an infinitive is, but piovere is the infinitive of to rain, so the same as to rain in English with the to, and so it wants to rain, something like that.
Okay, bene.
Mhm.
Okay, today then, oggi, what we're going to do?
Oggi we thought that we
Ciao.
could do a little special episode about more of a cultural episode. We're kind of testing everything. We tested very grammar heavy topics like masculine, feminine, singular, plural. We tested more hybrid ones. And today we want to do something that is entirely about Italian culture. So we want to talk about drinks, warm drinks, and cold drinks.
Sounds interessante.
I agree. I think so.
So the answers to the questions from last week's. First of all, we had what time does the restaurant open? Mezzogiorno was what
hmm
Marco told me. Credo a mezzogiorno. That would be midday, mezzo, halfway through the day, giorno. And what do Marco and Martin have? Well, I know I said I ho fame, I have hunger, and
hmm
Marco then said anche io ho fame. I also
hmm
have hunger. So they're hungry.
Very
They
good.
have hunger, literally. And second one, what was the temperature? And it was in degrees. And there was an argument about that, wasn't there?
There was. I think you were a bit confused about what I said. Maybe I didn't say it clearly. I said 30.
And I said 20.
Yes, you were confused about the number. So it was
Hmm,
30 degrees.
30 degrees, 30 gradi. And what did Marco say in his last line? What did you say in your last line, Marco?
I forgot.
Okay, that's not the answer. The answer was forse oggi piove.
Forse oggi piove. Sì, sì, sì. I remember that.
Yeah,
Perhaps today it rains.
yeah. Forse is a good word to remember.
Yes.
Perhaps it's one of
Yes.
those words. I've got a list of words like that on my wall. Things like appena, prima, soltanto, soprattutto, quasi, forse, tuttavia, things like that. They're
Very
all,
good. That's
yeah.
awesome. We can do an episode about that. And so I would say we can start with just ordering a drink. It's probably a very good way to start talking about what we drink at different times of the day. We talked about that a little bit in the past. So, how would you order a drink, Martin?
I would probably just ask for the drink and say please after it. So una
Great.
birra per favore or un caffè
Great.
per favore.
And that works very well. Un caffè per favore, una birra per favore. That per favore, literally for favor, for pleasure, doesn't really translate in English, but it's just please, as we saw in the past. So very good. Un caffè per favore. If you want to be very nice, we have a verb that is the verb volere, to want, and we have a tense, which is the present conditional. You have no idea about all of that, Martin, but there is one word that you can remember, which is the word vorrei.
Vorrei.
Yes, and vorrei means I would like, and we don't care why it means that, or how it translates or conjugate or anything like that. Just remember the word vorrei, I would like.
Okay, vorrei. So I would say vorrei una birra or vorrei un caffè.
Beautiful. Vorrei un caffè, which is the same as I would like a coffee, as opposed to, for example, I want a coffee, which I guess in some cultures would be fine when people are a bit more direct. And I'm thinking the United States, where people tend to be a bit more, strong in the way they communicate. If you say I want a beer in Italy, it can come across as a bit harsh. So vorrei is definitely nicer.
Okay, okay. So vorrei una birra. Now, if I ask for a beer, am I going to? I'm a bit particular about my beer. Am I going to be served something that I'm probably going to want to pour in a plant pot?
Yes, beer. We do not really have a strong beer culture in Italy. We are getting there now, obviously, as you know, with the microbreweries anywhere in the world. That we're also following the trend. But historically speaking, we drink just simple light beer, and it's not really good. My personal opinion, but
And would they say alla spina?
alla spina, very good. Yes. So if you ask for a beer, they might ask you the question, for example, if you want in bottiglia, bottled,
Hmm.
bottiglia is bottle, so in the bottle, or alla spina, draft. Okay, try and
Yeah.
say both in bottiglia or alla spina.
In bottiglia or alla spina?
Very good, alla spina. Nice. What do you prefer, Martin? In bottiglia or alla spina?
Well, it depends what you're serving, I'll be honest. And one thing I did find last year on a trip to Italy was that I noticed on a menu that they had IPAs, and I did work out that to ask for an IPA, you just ask for IPA.
Yes, IPA,
Yeah.
una IPA.
How would I say, in a polite way, do you have IPA?
Very good. So you could always say just I would like an IPA, and then they might say we do not have an IPA. But if you want to be more
Mm.
specific, we could just use the verb avere, is a possibility, or a little phrase that we learned last week, which I think is even better. Is there IPA? C'è la IPA?
Right. C'è la IPA.
La
No, would
IPA.
they
Very
say?
sorry. Very good. Yes,
Yeah,
la
yeah,
IPA.
yeah.
Because in Italy, whenever we have acronyms, we read
Uh-huh.
them as words. Always. We never spell them out.
Right.
Unless it's impossible because it's all consonants. But IPA, yes.
Okay, because I did ask someone that this year on this last trip. I asked Che La Ipa, and the guy just looked at me like I'd fallen off of the moon or something. I don't think he knew what an IPA was, so I ended up with a bottle of Peroni, which
Yes, Peroni, obviously.
yeah, yeah, obviously, yeah. If you sat and it's really hot and it's a lovely day, yeah, I can cope with a bottle of Peroni. I'm not averse to it.
Well, as I was telling you, we are obviously a wine culture, traditionally
Hmm.
speaking. So if you ask for a specific wine, they're gonna be able to fetch it for you, possibly from the same bathroom in the restaurant from last week where they would deal the pesto.
In
Yes,
fondo
in
adesso.
fondo a destra. Very good. But when it comes to beer, obviously there are places where that will sell you beer, and they're pretty good.
Mhm.
But if you go into any kind of restaurant, usually it's going to be, as you know, in our dialogue, either chiara or scura, light or dark beer, and that's
Right.
basically the choice you get. So IPA or IPA is not as commonly consumed in Italy, I would say.
Okay, so Chiara is clear,
Hmm.
Scura is dark.
Yes,
Okay, so that's possibly the choice that you'll be given. Or Bottiglia or Alaspina.
very good.
So it could be either or. Okay, well, you mentioned wine. So wine clearly is vino.
Il vino, certo.
Colors, I suppose, is what we need to get here.
Very good. And that's pretty straightforward. Vino is
Hmm.
a masculine noun, so if we're gonna attach an adjective to it, it's gonna end with an O. Il vino bianco,
Il vino bianco,
o il vino rosso, red wine.
il vino rosso.
Very good. So how would you say, for example, uh, a, well, I was gonna say a cup of red wine, but realistically, a bottle of red wine.
Okay, so una bottiglia
Perfetto. Una
di vino rosso.
Una bottiglia di vino rosso, molto bene. Whereas if you wanted a cup, un bicchiere, probably, di vino rosso.
Yeah, so a glass, un
Yes.
bicchiere.
Mhm.
Yeah, un bicchiere di vino rosso.
Perfetto. Yes. Obviously, in this case, you might be given a very long list of choices
Mm,
because we have a billion trillion different denominations and types and age and all that. But if you want to go very easy in a restaurant, that's a little tip for you. You just ask for vino della casa.
vino della casa.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the
So
house wine.
correct house wine, and that's usually going to be a lot cheaper than getting a cup or a bottle. So they will usually
Hmm.
get you a little jar, and it could be a quarter of a liter or half a liter or more, and it's usually going to be substantially cheaper than getting a few cups.
Interesting how you say cups. You see, that we would say that's a cup. It's a tazza.
This is actually a Spanish mistake because they say copa. So I
Oh, you're
guess
blaming the Spaniards
yeah,
now.
I do blame them.
Right.
I guess in Italian we might say Coppa di Vino as well, but for us Coppa is more like the trophy, like when you win something.
Ah, Coppa
Yes,
Mondiale.
there you go, Coppa Mondiale or Coppa dei Campioni, the old Italian name of the Champions
Hmm.
League. So cup, as in English, I guess you could say cup in that context as well. But we don't use it much with glasses.
Right. Okay. Well, that's so. In Italy, would we ask for a Coppa, or is that just a Spanish thing?
If you say Coppa, I'm not thinking of Coppa di Vino. Obviously, I understand.
Hmm.
They're gonna bring you the Champions League with the. No, I don't think so. It's
Yes,
fine.
full of wine. Yeah.
Exactly. That would be funny. But no, obviously it's clear. But generally speaking, we just use the word bicchiere, which applies
Hmm.
to any kind of glass. I would say.
Okay, that's clear. Um, Obviously, not everybody drinks wine or beer. So if we're asking for water, I know because the Romans built these big long bridges that carried it that it's called aqua.
Very good. Aqua, and we have a lot of water culture in Italy. I don't know how to say that, but there's a lot of mineral water in Italy, so we are
Hmm.
very picky about that. We know nothing about beer, but water we know. And we specifically are very heavy drinkers of sparkling water. Do you know how to say
Ah,
that?
is it frizzante?
Frizzante, very good.
Hmm.
That doesn't translate literally, frizzante. Or they might say gassata is also a synonym.
Hmm.
It means with gas. Gas is obviously gas.
Okay, frizzante or gassata.
Very good. And if you do not
Okay,
want it sparkling, you just say
yeah,
naturale.
naturale, yeah, natural as it comes.
There you go.
Okay, so those are the two choices you always get. So that's yeah. And then on top of that, obviously we have juices. So succo is juice.
Succo is juice, correct? And there is something to be said about juice, but I'm not. I'm not. You could say succo. In most cases, you would also ask for a spremuta, especially orange. Orange juice is a spremuta. Spremere is to squish. Uh,
Okay,
yes, so technically it's not
right.
succo d'arancia because I think succo is if you put in a blender.
Uh-huh.
But succo is usually as in English, juice is the general word. Succo d'arancia or succo di limone, that's, or succo di mela or succo di pesca, so apple juice or peach juice or anything like that. Is gonna
Right.
work.
Right. When you said succo di pesca, I thought we were ordering fish juice then for a minute.
Oh, good. No, because pesca is the
Yeah.
fruit, the peach, whereas
Yeah.
pesce is the fish. That's a big
Right.
difference. Be careful not to ask
Yeah.
for fish ice cream
Yeah.
because that would be funny.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That could be a really interesting meal, that. Right. Very good. So we've ordered different kinds of drinks there to the table. Is anything else that might come up? I mean, I know Aperol Spritz is something that, it comes up in, is that a certain area? Is that a regional thing?
Yes, it was started.
You don't look very happy about that.
I think it's from Padova originally. It's from the Veneto region, so the area of Venice.
Right.
And now it's everywhere. In the last 2 years, whenever I go anywhere in the world, I see spritz. It's
Mm.
a very light cocktail and something that we drink for aperitivo.
Right. Aperitivo.
Get
Okay.
which
Right.
is how would you translate aperitivo in English, Martin?
Well, we actually call them aperitifs.
There we go. Okay. But yes, there is a little bit of cocktail drinking, but I would say it's not there's not a lot of it. compared to a lot of other countries. So aperitivo
Mm.
with light drinks is usually where it's at, but most of the drinks are going to be borrowed. So for example, you can find Manhattan, you can find Negroni, and it's a very famous one, especially in the Milan
Mm.
area. There are some Italian ones, but generally speaking, you get away with anything from, the English/American word.
But then there is my favorite Italian drink of all, which I would always ask for after I've eaten, and that would be the grappa.
Oh, grappa, yes. That is
Mm.
consumed in a small, almost shot-like glass. But don't drink it all at once because it's very good, and it's usually drank in very small quantities after
Yeah.
eating to help you digest. I don't know. That's the excuse. I don't know if it's true that it helps you.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And it is an excuse, but it's a good excuse.
I don't know, but generally speaking, yes, you can definitely ask, a restaurant if they have grappa. So, uh,
Hmm.
c'è una grappa? That could be a good
Hmm.
way to ask that, and they might bring you something delicious or something really bad because most of this stuff is almost homemade. Going back to
Yeah.
our bathroom dealing, so usually it's really good, but it's homemade.
I think it's often a good way to understand whether the restaurant is actually Italian owned. Certainly when you're overseas, because sometimes if I ask for grappa, they look at me like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Um, and then some people, I was in an Italian restaurant recently, near to here actually in Yorkshire, and it was owned by Albanians. But because they were just across the Adriatic, they had loads of grappa, and he had some aged grappa, and it was wow. He wanted to come and sit at the table and drink it with us.
Nice. Actually, I don't know if we talked about this in the past, but in Albania they didn't used to have. I might offend someone, but so correct me if I'm mistaken, anybody from Albania. But until fairly recently, they didn't really have local TV, so they would pick up the Italian
Oh
television.
yeah, you've
Yes.
mentioned this.
So I think they know a lot about Italian culture just because, and a lot of them speak Italian very well for this reason.
Mm,
They told me. I don't know. Maybe this guy was really good at Italian. He was just making fun of me. That's possible. But
mm.
I mean, that would be a very elaborate prank that he did 12 years ago. So it would be very forward thinking. In
Yeah,
which
yeah.
case, props to you. But in general, yes, Albanians understand quite a lot of the Italian culture because they often speak the language. So yes, if grappa is the way you can tell if a restaurant is Italian, pistacchio is the way you can tell if a gelateria is
Ah,
Italian. Yes, for two reasons.
fantastic. Yeah, I like
Yes.
that. And do you know, I went into a little Italian coffee shop in Edinburgh, and the
Okay.
guy was clearly Scottish, but he clearly had Italian roots.
Uh-huh.
And they had the
Sure.
sfogliatelle, sfogliatelle.
Sfogliatelle, okay.
Okay, sfogliatelle. Yeah, so
Lobster
yeah,
tails.
sfogliatelle. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, that's what they get called in the US. So I said, oh, sfogliatelle. And so we ordered some, and because I said sfogliatelle and not sfogliatella, he said something in Italian. And so then I asked for pistachio, and he looked at me and he gave me a bit of a nod.
Yes. If they say
Yeah,
pistachio, they're not Italian. It's pistacchio.
absolutely.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah, pistachio. Yeah, I always find it interesting. But then I did come across somebody in Italy recently who was serving ice cream, and they knew we were English and actually called it pistachio.
Yes.
And I thought, what? Why? Why?
Why?
Why you do?
No, that's a
Yeah.
mistake. We should
Mm.
tell you that you're wrong. No, but
Yeah.
jokes aside, it's funny. I think that I'm gonna offend a lot of people here. Ooh, I'm gonna offend a lot of people. I think that the best. So the way you can tell if a gelateria is really good is if they have good pistachio ice cream, gelato al
Hmm.
pistacchio. You know where I had my best one?
Go on. Where? Dove?
In Spain. That
Oh,
was
oh,
awesome.
oh,
And the guy, and tell you, and
oh.
I get into this gelateria and I asked for ice cream, and my Spanish was a little bit iffy. That was years ago. And the guy's Spanish was a little bit iffy. So we figured he was, from Sicily. And he literally had pistachios shipped to him from his
Wow.
brother who's growing them. And he actually showed me the bag. It took me on,
Wow.
on the back door, look at
Brilliant.
this. This is from Bronte. Bronte is one of the cities where we have pistachio. And that place disappeared. Like I tried to go back again there. It's not. I'm sure it was a dream or
Maybe
illusion.
you can, or if you go into the restaurant nearby, perhaps in the corner at the back, on
Maybe,
the right. Yeah, maybe
that's it. Or
that's where you can
I
buy them.
was dreaming. Maybe too many Peronis.
Maybe so. Ok, grazie Marco e alla prossima settimana.
Grazie a te, Martin. Ci vediamo settimana prossima. Ciao a
Ok,
tutti. Goodbye, everybody.
ciao a tutti, arrivederci.
Ciao ciao.